Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Jacob Weil.
And Rohit Dar.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves on the cusp of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming, even courting a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever-growing catalog and rule on what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. Today we are covering the most recent penultimate installment in the show sweeping the nation, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 5, Truth.
Yeah.
And joining us, a very special guest. I mean, really racking up the guest stars this season. Well, I guess this incursion of Plus&Us for this most recent MCU show with a man of great legal standing in the Geekvolution live streams, a marvelous individual. You already heard him earlier, Rohit Dar.
Well, just a correction, it's actually Rohit Dar, and I feel like such a fraud for not ever correcting anyone when, especially Capper DJ pronounces my name. It's actually Rohit, so you row a boat and hit someone with the paddle by accident.
Okay, so Rohit Dar.
No, Rohit.
Rohit.
So you row,
Rohit. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Rohit. Gotcha, buddy. Sorry about that.
Nope. It's my fault for not ever correcting anyone saying my name, so.
Okay, well, seriously, man, welcome. I'm so glad to have you on. I haven't seen you in a whole bunch of the Geekvolution live streams for God knows how long, and always such an insightful individual, and you were one of the go-tos. We had to try to get you on this round, buddy. So, how does it feel? You're on.
It feels great. This is I guess my first podcast that I'm a guest of or I'm part of, so I'm just thankful to be invited by you, Blue Dragon, and always appreciate your insights and just discussion in regards to anything pop culture. And I appreciate also to be with Jacob. So just hoping to have a good show.
Yeah. Thank you.
So perhaps we should kick things off with let's of course we've Jacob's been on and I've been on pretty much all of these. So let's get the new guy's perspective up to this point. Rohit, tell us how have you been feeling about the show up to this point in general?
What's interesting, Blue Dragon, is I'm just thinking sort of about the meta narrative, just like how people perceived both WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the marketing and just the initial lead up to both shows debuting. And so for WandaVision, there's this expectation that, it's going to be different. It's going to break the mold of the MCU. And that's sort of the initial hype. And then, at least in my opinion, I think it was groundbreaking until the end. And in the end, I feel like it went back to the MCU formula. So while I overall like WandaVision as a show, I think it's hampered by, in the end, kind of getting cold feet and going back to sort of the tried and true, formulaic tropes and cliches in the MCU, even though there's certain elements in the ending episode that I like. But for contrast, for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the initial discourse and lead up to it is that, this is sort of traditional MCU fodder, but just in a streaming platform on an episodic basis. And it's like, this is sort of something that maybe Marvel wanted to introduce us to, easy transition to the MCU being on a television episode basis on a streaming platform. And then in watching the show, I mean, we have to wait on the final episode to see how things wrap up, but I have a feeling that I come to like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier more than WandaVision in terms of its exploration of race, patriotism, marginalization of various groups throughout history and throughout the world, as mirrored today. And what I appreciate is that not only do you have the things being explored, we also have really good character exploration with Sam, Bucky, and Walker. And those three sort of, in relation to one another, I think bears the thematic heart and point about what does it mean to be Captain America in the 21st century with all the baggage and all the history that we, are aware of to an uncomfortable degree. And I think this show really in one aspect, what carries on the spirit and themes of the Captain America trilogy, but also breaks new ground by having Sam, a black man, take the lead and, with the level of authenticity and, boldness, I feel like, especially in this episode, dealt with really strong issues that are being discussed about in conversations across America and across the world. And it does so with, grace. It doesn't try to simplify things. And I think at the very least, after this show is done, I think the Falcon and Winter Soldier will, among all the entries within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, will have lasting power. And I think it's sort of a testament to what Marvel can do more beyond the traditional 2.5 hour runtime of a film, and the reception that they can receive by being more bolder and being more, sort of mature in its subject matter. And I really appreciate the show going as far as it has through both the writing, directing, and acting. And so I'm loving the show right now.
All right. Jacob, let's just bridge that into this week's episode. Jacob, why don't you tell us how you felt about this one?
I really enjoyed this episode. I mean, I'm not sure if I'd call it like the zenith of the series so far. I mean, obviously, since there's only 6 episodes, it's hard to say, considering when. Although I think it's definitely a step up, probably from last week's. I mean, the last week's did have like that. Mainly, basically, the last episode will probably only be remembered for but the previous episode will only probably be remembered for like, oh my god, there's blood on the shield. So, but I think this one will be definitely more interesting in terms of character development and everything like that. The exploration of Sam and Bucky is quite interesting. Overall, I thought it was a very solid, fun episode and interesting and quite interesting and dramatic as well.
Right. Of course, me. It's kind of a broken record at this point. I'm so head over heels with this show. I mean, I've been waiting in anticipation for this thing. It's the whole reason I got Disney Plus in the first place, and of course, everything being put on hold just kind of nearly drove me insane. Thank goodness for Mandalorian, but it's how it goes. But getting onto this episode, I thought this was a great setup for the storm coming for the finale. I thought we kind of moved the pieces quite nicely. We had a lot of great character stuff for Sam and Bucky. And of course, really heart-pumping action at the top, which kind of it's like, let's get the action out of the way first, and then we'll get to the character stuff we've really kind of threading the needle with for the season. And I got to give the show major props. My God. Again, I keep having this paranoid fear in the back of my head while I'm watching. It's just, this is good stuff. I don't want it to end. Maybe 6 episodes isn't enough, but they're going a little wider with the runtime towards the tail end here. They're getting it all in there. So I'm yet again impressed. Like we got a lot of great kind of needed character stuff on the boat stuff in this episode between kind of Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I'm quite pleased with that, and of course a lot of compelling stuff all around. But I think more so teed up for a really potentially exciting and phenomenal finale. But we'll find out next week, I suppose. So all that said, let's talk about that introduction. Let's talk about kind of the big inevitable showdown between Walker and, of course, Sam and Bucky.
So in regards to the opening of this episode, here's what's interesting to me, because the end of episode 4 ends with Walker being videotaped committing a war crime, like essentially just killing a person who is outwardly putting his hands up and surrendering.
Mm-hmm.
And then the beginning of episode 5, he's running away. And what's interesting to me is that, like, when you get later to the scene where Walker's being, dressed down by the senator and by the U.S. delegation for his actions, not only are they dressing down for him being videotaped killing someone in the middle of the street, he's also most likely videotaped running away from basically the scene of the crime. Like, it's already bad enough for him to have basically murdered someone, but on top of that, he's running away rather than, staying there, surrounding himself. So it just goes to show sort of at least in my head, the implications of how much of an international incident it is for basically the symbol of a country to commit a crime and essentially evade the consequences as best as they could.
Oh yeah, I mean this whole John Walker story is just I felt it's been so great. I love how polarizing it is. Some people are very anti this new Cap for good reason, but I love the grounding element being again John Walker is this guy. Even though I don't support his actions, I get where he's coming from with these actions in terms of he had the best of intentions. He did want to help people as Captain America, but again, he just wasn't right for it. He was the safe choice essentially by the government. He was like, we need a guy who's going to play ball by the Accords in essence. We're going to need the yes man. We're going to need the guy who's breakfast. Essentially, going back all the way to the grenade example, we need the guy who we think could jump on the grenade. In this case, the guy who could use his helmet to absorb the impact of the grenade because he's told to, not the guy who's going to kind of risk himself just on instinct because he's fundamentally that good. But it doesn't mean he's an evil guy. It just means he's not. Just means he's not exactly right for the shield. And going back to the Earth's kind of it all, it's like we're using this. The serum magnifies what's there. Of course, if you're a good man, you'll remain good man. And in the case of Walker, yeah,
Whatever's bad is made worse.
exactly. And in Walker's case, honestly, I think it magnified his instability and his grief, in that he's all the pressure, just everything under a magnifying glass, just the will to succeed.
It's like the thing that the main difference of Captain America, Steve Rogers was shaped by the patriotism of World War II. Walker though is he's defined by Afghanistan, which is arguably
The questionable war, so to speak.
Yeah. So obvious. So you can definitely say they were shaped by two different kinds of war.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but if you look at their backgrounds, like Steve Rogers, tried to enlist, and by just his sheer moral character, impressed Erskine enough to be given the serum. Whereas Walker, he specifically went to the Annapolis officer school, and so in comparing the two backgrounds, Walker's the guy that people are impressed by his pedigree, his credentials, but the things that really matter, like the inner self and the worth and dignity of a person, it's not there to the same degree as say Steve Rogers that came from nothing and was a sickly man. Whereas Walker before the serum, he's a healthy, robust man who can throw the shield like no one's business. And it goes to the point of Walker being a strong man and not valuing power to say someone like Steve pre-serum, who is a weak man and values power not for the sake of it, but what it can do to further the better good of people.
Basically, Cap had a stronger mind and purse. Basically,
yeah,
certainly, and yeah, I mean, of course, the moment that really kind of struck me at the top of the episode when he's running away is as we have this awesome kneeling with the shield moment, is just kind of taking in the grief of losing Lamar, losing Battlestar. It's just that moment of time to go to work, and he's just brushing it off. That just shows you the instability of this man. It's I did what I had to. I'm moving on. I'm chugging along.
I honestly saw it as more he's letting his grief of losing Lamar consume him more than anything else. Certainly. It's that was what pushed him over the edge.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I think basically up until that Lamar was the thing that was keeping. I mean, sure, he was kind of a jerk before then, but I think Lamar was basically his right hand man to keep him.
Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, his Jiminy Cricket to keep him, to keep him stable, keep him keep him to doing the right thing.
It was very much again kind of the Cap Bucky kind of dynamic in a sense, and that the grounding up basically Cap needs a partner, and that's kind of we're showing the importance of said partner. Without that, Walker definitely going off the deep end.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that there's been sort of this discourse of comparing John Walker to Homelander, and I, for one, at least in my personal opinion, feel that's a surface level comparison because in these 5 episodes, especially in the 5th episode, John is not a person that I would consider sociopathic or narcissistic to the same degree as Homelander. He has the whole reasoning to be Captain America is because the things he did to be, to win 3 medals of honor, he feels regret and trauma for. And I don't think Homelander ever has any regret, remorse, feeling of sympathies, or desire to protect other people. It's all about him. And John, I think, is just sort of, instead of being given counseling or help from the government, he's just been used as a tool.
he's pretty much put into another war.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Walker that I've always kind of glommed onto with that second episode is that very much like Steve Rogers, he used the Captain America persona just to be able to, kind of be able to serve the common good. And basically, it's kind of this perverse idea of like, what if Cap, and this episode makes this comparison even more important, is that what if Cap did not break rank to save Bucky? That's essentially, if he just waited his turn, eventually he'd be given like a pity command of like, okay, well, you put in some good work, we'll give you some safe troops, like kind of a publicity mission of some sort, but you get to be the Captain America icon with an actual gun or something. Where in this case, with later on, we have Isaiah Bradley with the scene where he literally lived that. He too did what Steve Rogers did, and then he broke rank to save his men. Only it was a horrific ending for him, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah, and let's see. Okay, so I'm sorry. Back back to the opening. So I love that we almost talk him down, but the moment the shield gets mentioned, that's where Walker's identity and the pride of like, no, I have to be. I have this shield. The symbol is what I am. I've given up everything to be this thing. So again, he and Bucky kind of have a unified arc in this episode about tying themselves to the shield for better or for worse. And Falcon pushing against that, being very much in coming to grips with that by the end of things.
Interesting.
what was interesting for me when the fight did occur with Sam, Bucky, and John is that John, for the most part, like is holding his own. Like John is able to take on Bucky when it's just him in between those two. And with Sam, like he literally rips out the wings, like declips Sam, and they basically had to like break his arm and
Thanos style almost.
Yeah, to peel the shield off of him.
And they had to do basically like a double like wrestling move where Bucky holds on the legs and Sam just flies into his face with the shield. Yeah, it kind of really shows me that in the future that John, if and when he does become U.S. agent, like he's not someone that can be easily defeated in a fight, after a few minutes, like say Patrick the Leaper. Like he's someone that can hold his own, and thus when he does return, like he'll be even more, I don't know if threatening is right, he'd be more of a significant threat to, deal with. And it really shows that after that fight, like Sam and Bucky are just exhausted. Like unlike Steve, like they really had to work as a team. And the shot where Bucky just like tosses the shield right next to Sam and the look he gives is such a good moment, because then Sam is sort of feeling a lot of guilt about refusing the shield. But ultimately later on in the episode, we'll probably discuss that, once we get to that point. But I like how sort of Bucky is now, after time's gone by within this episode, becomes aware of what it meant for Sam to take on that shield. And so this was just a good episode where Sam and Bucky have now, in contrast to episode 2, have really grown to understand where the other person's coming from. And whether they continue on in the second season or in the films or what have you, like they now have a friendship as solid as the friendship between Steve and Sam and Steve and Bucky. And so I think that was a really good credit to this episode for having that happen.
Right.
Certainly. A little subtlety in the super soldier serum, I think people forget about over time. I kind of like that we addressed in this awesome fight is that, the really cool thing about, Winter Soldier is that, he was the closest thing Hydra could replicate to, he was Hydra's version of the super soldier serum, and they hit him like as much like kind of like knockoff super soldier serum and like a metal arm, and basically God knows what else, to measure him up to Captain America, which again is really intimidating, and definitely with Cap kind of gone, definitely was like the deterrent. But think about it, with this new and improved, serum, basically, again, it's kind of like a streamlined, some sort of like, again, Nagel was really bragging about last, what is it, like last episode? Yeah, it was, episode 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nagel. So that's the thing. Like this is like the streamlined, like new, hot off the presses, new and improved version of it. So yeah, no wonder he's kind of running some circles around our boys here for sure.
I think what's streamlined about this. I mean, this might be something that people have gotten, but I think it's streamlined to the extent that with Steve, he not only need to be injected with the super serum, he needs to
Yeah, the
be
Vita
bombarded.
rays.
Yeah. So like with Nagel's version, either you drink it, inject it, what have you.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that not only is that a difference from Erskine to Nagel, what's another particular difference, I think this is something to sort of, not to force every actor who's a super soldier to get like super ripped, is that you look physically the same as you would conceivably pre-serum, but your physical like strength, like in terms of lifting objects and punching just harder than any human could, is more enhanced. So I think that's sort of the interesting wrinkle that, like, if this was mass produced and sent out to a bunch of people, like there could be just a random super soldier that you wouldn't notice because they don't look different from like a regular person.
That is a
And so,
great observation, Rohit.
yeah.
Yep.
Let me. Oh, well, one last thing. I love the. Of course, I'm loving how they've been using the Henry Jackman score from from Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I love this fight. Pretty much used the climax music from that. So like,
Well, I mean, he's here for this.
I know it's great. And I love that we basically gave Bucky a taste of what Steve went through in that third act this episode. I just love it. It's like, yeah, this is what it was like, Bucky. It wasn't fun. You shot the crap out of him, and you did all, you almost killed him. And I mean, we almost decapitate Falcon. Oh, I am Captain America. I love that runner for Walkers. This whole menacing, I am Captain America. Like, oh God, put this guy in the suit. What were we thinking? So speaking of which, let's talk about, there was a big rumored cameo, and we had basically a big new character added to the MC. We have the Contessa,
who is supposed to be introduced in Black Widow.
Yeah, so Contessa, the full name, the Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. So Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays the Contessa,
otherwise known as Madam Hydra.
but also many names. She was the second one to take on that Madam Hydra mantle, if I recall.
Well, to my understanding is that Madam Hydra wasn't really a full-time, long-term role for her. Like she just did that to go undercover, and she was like a triple agent for Leviathan. So
yeah. But
Well,
so I'm sorry, go on.
what was interesting for me is that the way that the cameo was introduced is like you see the boots, and it's like I don't know if you guys like follow leakers or scoops on like sort of what was anticipated for this episode, but what was reported was that it was going to be a woman who was going to play a known Marvel character, and that this was and what wasn't big was the character itself, but more so the actress. And so I had a theory that like, oh, there's some older woman that play like Rebecca Barnes, Bucky's younger sister, who's like an elderly person, because Bucky did mention having a sister.
He did.
And
he did.
Yeah. But what was interesting is that when Julia Louis-Dreyfus came in, she very much, I think the way she was shot and the way she acted is very much that the show, and by extension the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is setting up like an anti-Avengers or an anti-hero version of the Avengers,
like possibly the Thunderbolt. Yeah, the Thunderbolt.
Yeah,
like what is it? The Masters of not the Masters of Evil, the Masters of something. The whole Doctor Doom got to go to that group of anti-Avenger. But yeah.
Yeah, and that Contessa Valentina, in the comics being a former lover of Nick Fury, is now in this MCU positioned as a like dark or anti-hero Nick Fury, and John Walker is the dark or anti-hero Captain America.
Yeah.
And so
And what about that blank card though?
I think that card, you just have to put a UV light or some like. I'm just thinking about like, you guys see National Treasure, and like it's basically you have to take the back of the decoration and like put lemon or whatever and heat it up. Just that's how you do it with the card. You just put lemon juice on, heat it up, and then it'll reveal like a phone number or like an address to reach out. So
yeah. I wonder if it's gonna be like a high-tech version of it, though. I wonder if it's like already built into the card, like when she calls, like the thing will like heat up or something. I don't know, but
or the card like is actually just like a GPS thing for her to keep track of Walker.
That's a better call. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, But yeah, so also not just a lover of Nick Fury. This is like the lover. Like this is a Jim Steranko character. This was
Yeah.
the very famous like the gun in the holster comic book panel.
No,
That was
yes,
her.
yes.
But
Yeah,
and, yeah,
just a random aside, like when I was growing up, I had a book called The Silver Age of Comic Art. And my favorite section of that was the section on Jim Steranko and just his use of graphic design. So, and I know about the gun holsters scene, but yeah, it's interesting and exciting that you know that Marvel's going through the deep well and getting small characters that people wouldn't necessarily care about and bringing in some really big name actors and actresses to play them. Like Julie Louis-Dreyfus is like an award-winning like actress who's been in like popular comedies like Seinfeld, The Adventures of Old Christine,
and Veep. I
Veep.
mean, okay, now here's the thing. Veep is a great Veep makes her perfect for this show because Veep is like there's a dramatic element to it, but also it's like a lot of like biting comedy. It's like it's plus political comedy too, so it's perfect for her for this role. So yeah, she's also in her animated voice. We're like, look at her as Laurel and Onward. Yeah, she's great, tremendous.
Oh yeah, I forgot she was in that.
Oh yeah, and also I mean going back to Bug, everyone forgets about A Bug's Life, but she was great in A Bug's Life too. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew she was in that. I just forgot she was in Onward.
Oh, yeah. But seriously, I mean, yeah, you can't do again. Julia Judge is kind of like her hands being all those kind of those pots of demographics. I mean, like, people are going to recognize. There's a little bit of recognition there. Again, kind of like a more affordable kind of Nick Fury equivalent, which would be perfect for that role of again her potentially getting the Thunderbolts together again. So basically, what we know, she's going to be setting up a lot of Phase 4 and even Phase 5 stuff, possibly.
I wonder if they're going to do.
MCU.
I wonder if they're going to do like they did with Mando and announce like a book of Boba Fett-esque thing at the end of one of these shows.
If they announce like Thunderbolts at the end of this, and I'm convinced like she's gonna be the post credits scene. She's got to be. It's gonna be her coming to John Walker at the end. This is the post credit scene for the season.
Imagine if she like the post credit scene, like she approaches Walker and he's somehow in jail, and she has a briefcase. She opens it. And it's like played like how the Wolverine deleted scene where
on the plane,
and you see the U.S. agent outfit.
Yeah, I'm still wondering if he's going to spray paint his costume black. Well, no, he's trying to be Captain America, so yeah, that would be the better idea if he has like the black version of the costume at the end. That'd be awesome.
I mean, he's already building his own shield.
Imagine if they actually stole like some extra vibranium to make him an equivalent shield to
No. Here's a better idea. Like the metal revealed is adamantium.
Oh yes, yes, that's amazing. Yes, I love that.
They can use that now.
Yes, again, and plus the whole patch and the magic board. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I was talking to a friend earlier about like what would if there was like a spinoff dealing with U.S. Agent and what the show would be about. So we had this theory, or we had this idea that like mutants are spouting about, but they're being recruited and or conscripted to be like foreign agents of like enemy nations to America. And our idea was to have instead of we have like Super Patriot, but be like a group and sort of be like the opposite of the Flag Smashers. But the twist is that some of the members, or all of them, are mutants, and they're basically fighting on America's behalf.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then have Omega Red be sort of like
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We keep flirting with Omega Red. We kind of do them, but we don't. But yeah, so let's that's to say, of course, Black Widow being the big thing because everything got reconfigured, everything. It's like, okay, so she's probably she's going to be, I don't know if she's going to be the main antagonist per se, but I'm sure she'll have a role in Black Widow in terms of, again, kind of being the echoes of Fury, but on her own terms, perhaps. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced we're going to get a Secret Invasion payoff with her possibly being a Skrull. I'm saying if anyone's going to be a Skrull, it could be her.
I mean, it could it could be a recurring thing for these shows because the last scene of WandaVision was teeing up Secret Invasion. So what if that's like what if that's like the Disney Plus Marvel shows Avengers thing?
I'd like that to be the case. I mean, Rohit, what do you got?
I have a theory. Like, I would like if it's not going to be a random person that just is shown up in the post-credit scene like WandaVision, if it's a character that we've seen on the show, I have a prediction: the one senator that introduced John Walker.
Oh, the bearded guy, the evil bearded guy in the show.
That he's a Skrull. And that kind of person would be very valuable to impersonate if he's high in the government and especially involved with the GRC.
That's an excellent call, Rohit. Let me ask you this.
Well, it would be kind of interesting if this kind of led up to like the Kree Skrull War. I mean, they kind of already were at war, but like if they adapted they actually adapted the comic story.
Yeah, where Earth is basically like in the middle of this war.
Yeah.
Entirely possible. Of course, I mean, because we kind of teed up the Kree and Captain Marvel, and we're getting more of that. So, and plus, especially with Monica now kind of in full force, it's quite possible. Let me ask you this.
You should probably still remain focused on this show, though. Since
yes, I'm remaining focused on the show. What do you think the possibility is that the Contessa could be the power broker? Given that she was really favorable, like, hey, if you kill them all, we'd be even happier. Because again, she would want the Flag Smashers dead if she were the power broker. I mean, it's yet another possibility. I feel a lot of people are saying Sharon Carter's the power broker. I'm not.
Well, I mean, she clearly did hire Batroc the first time.
I think what's going on, my prediction with the Sharon Carter thing, I think they're going against it. I think it's a misdirect. I think there's going to be a reveal of Batroc. I think that Batroc is playing up the vendetta, and he's going to be like he's infiltrating the Flag Smashers so our guys can win the day, per Sharon Carter's intention.
So Blue Dragon, to answer your question in regards to Valentina being the power broker, I would say the chances are under 50. And here's my reasoning. One, this was a point brought up by Eric Voss of New Rockstars when he did the breakdown of episode 5. And his point was, if Valentina was going to be the power broker, why wasn't that revealed when she first showed up? Because I feel like if you reveal this character who we've never seen before, and she's the power broker, you would want to reveal that in the same scene where she shows up for the first time. Second, unless Zemo and everyone else that has heard of the power broker just given false information and just never seen them use male pronouns. So I figure someone has seen the power broker or knows what gender they are, and so I don't feel like it'll be Valentina. I think the power broker, I don't know if they'll necessarily will. I don't think it'll be like the situation with the engineer where it doesn't amount to anything. It could be that there'll be a person in the background and the reveal of the power broker will come up, in a subsequent season or a subsequent iteration of that has some of these characters. And in regards to Sharon Carter, this was a point also brought up by Eric Voss and New Rockstars. He referenced a Vanity Fair interview with Ryan Johnson, who was discussing about a scene in his movie Knives Out. And the reveal was that Apple, when they're licensing out products to people in their movies, they have specific demand that bad guys or just evil people in general can have their iPhones. And so if you want to identify, this is sort of a trick, is that you want to identify whoever the bad guy is in a scene, it's whoever doesn't have an iPhone. And I think in that scene that Sharon is talking about, Batroc the Leaper, she specifically doesn't have an Apple phone.
Mm.
And also, Eric Voss mentioned that, co-host with his MT, he speaks a little French, and this was backed up by other people that translate what Batroc said on the phone. He said on the phone, "Oh, you cost me my men on my last mission. I'll never work for you again." That's the translation. So basically, what Batroc did in episode 1 was probably something that was sanctioned by Sharon Carter and her capacity as an agent of the power broker. And so,
That's what I was just saying.
Well, I'm going to say this, okay? Because I really, I enjoyed Sharon Carter. I like the idea where we started through this season. I will say this: if I'm a little concerned over the payoff, assuming the rumors are true that she ends up being the power broker. But here's the thing I think could save it: if she indeed was a Skrull, which I think would be kind of a cure-all for any potential problems. I'm not saying maybe. Look, I'm just of the mindset because I've never really considered Sharon Carter really going kind of crossing that line, just kind of being being the villain, but. I was moved this season by the idea that, yeah, Sharon Carter is a character in the MCU, just kind of in general, given the whole killing Captain America thing in the comics, is that she always gets everything every time she's put her faith in a system, it's always let her down, it's always failed her. She trusted in Shield, turned out to be Hydra. She helped she helps save the day by giving Cap and Falcon their stuff back, ends up being branded. that doesn't get because she wasn't in the big fight in Endgame. She doesn't get a part. She's always been screwed over in the MCU, so it makes sense that she'd be a little kind of anti-heroes at this point. But I don't know if that's enough to buy that she's the power broker. I'm not saying they can't sell me on that, but we'll see.
I don't think she's the power broker so much as that because in the comics, there's a team, female agents and key members to my mind that are part of the show is Valentina and Sharon Carter. So there could be a thing where Sharon Carter sort of playing like both sides. She's like a double or triple agent.
That's a good call.
And so she's involved with a lot of criminal stuff, but ultimately behind her, like within her ear, she's either according to Valentina or Nick Fury or someone else altogether. And so I think the show, in keeping with its roots of being a very espionage heavy show, in keeping with the spirit of not only the comics but also the Winter Soldier, Sharon Carter, I think is a character that, say Severus Snape, you don't know which side she's on, but ultimately in the end she'll turn, be on the good guy's side. But she will always have you second guessing, leading up to it.
That's an excellent call, and also kind of helps. I know we haven't gotten her yet. We haven't gotten the new Black Widow yet, obviously, but it's kind of like filling Natalie's shoes almost in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
Natasha's. I'm thinking Natalie. I know I was thinking Natalie Rushman, but
Yeah.
But let's see. What was just with the power broker thing. I mean, a lot of the cameo buzz, which I never put any faith in a cameo buzz. By the way, going into these, never do that. But some people have been throwing out there might have been an X-Men tie, or there might have been God forbid, a Daredevil tie. Which I did not get my hopes up for the Daredevil thing. I would have loved it because I was thinking if they're going to do Daredevil, the Kingpin. If we were going to put D'Onofrio in, I would have lost my collective crap. Oh, my God, we got D'Onofrio in there. It means it all counted. Yes. But, I'm not backing that horse quite yet. I'm still just praying that we get Charlie Cox officially in that No Way Home. I won't believe it until I see it.
I've still heard that Kevin Feige does not consider the television stuff, except for this stuff, canon.
And I'm hoping that so far nothing. Again, this Madam Hydra thing yet again would be another thing to maybe worry about a little bit. So far, there's nothing been truly contradictory to the universes to those shows not having taken place in the same universe. So far, nothing.
Well, the only contradiction that comes to mind is the Darkhold.
Okay, well that's an aesthetic. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing truly in it. That one's the Darkhold looks different.
Okay.
I'm just saying it looks different. outside of the look. It's the. I mean, you could say it's like the Darkhold changes when you see it. I don't know. It's a magic book. I think that's a little.
I mean, and from the comics, I think I haven't delved into much of the history, but what I understand is the Darkhold's like the Bible to the extent there's 2 or 3 books that comprise it. So maybe as sort of a way to not invalidate the other Marvel shows depiction. It's Darkhold is not one book, but 2 or 3 books. So Agatha has one part of the Darkhold, and then the other shows have their other parts.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Rohit, I went over this in one of the other episodes, but the big thing that would have truly been an invalidator, if you will, would have been the Doctor. We went with Nagel from the Truth comic, which is great, and it's even better, works for the story even better. But in the comics, it was a guy called Carl Mollis, who was the bad guy in Jessica Jones season 2, who didn't quite make it out at the end of that season. So that guy showed up. That would have been an irrefutable proof sort of thing. Well, we can't have two Carl Mollis, especially when the other one's pushing up daisies. We can't have that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the other one, I think the more logical call, the potential call, would be Mr. Sinister being the power broker. They go the X-Men route.
The theory that Eric Voss mentioned was that it could be the Mandarin.
It's not bad. That's a good idea.
Instead of setting up Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I mean, I like all these theories are great, but I feel applying Occam's razor and just what's the most simplest way the shows go about it. I think it's going to be Curtis Jackson, or it could be a situation where it's Curtis Jackson in name, but aesthetically he looks like the second version of the Power Broker, where he's all purple, robot looking, or
Now I want to be
more
clear.
the first version. So
last thing I'll say, and we'll move on. We got to talk about the Isaiah Bradley stuff. Last thing I was to say is that again, I'm still ultimately the thing of the Power Broker, the thing of WandaVision is now kind of spun out of control. Unfortunately, is that again with all the speculations and the week-long breaks, is that the Power Broker at the end of the day, he's just a guy in a suit. That's right. I'm really expecting no one to be the Power Broker, But all this buzz and everything is kind of getting you all turned around and everything. I mean, just with everyone, because we did all the Mephisto stuff in WandaVision, right?
All this power broker stuff could be just like a way to generate buzz.
Because ultimately, Power Broker is a guy in a suit, really. It's really all it is. I mean, I've heard maybe Kevin Feige would play the Power Broker. I'll take that because it'd be kind of cute. But
Well, to be fair, I mean, that is how what he is in the comics. I mean, they could easily change these things for the films and TV series as they have obviously done.
I mean, sure, it's entirely possible. I'm just saying I'm going in with the simple expectation versus it's going to be Mephisto.
Yeah, no.
I think hopefully they save Mephisto for Multiverse of Madness.
I would hope so as well. If they didn't do it in WandaVision, that's a logical place to do it.
Unless Wanda herself is the main antagonist.
Entirely possible as well. So let's talk about one of the most moving integral scenes of the episode. Let's talk about Sam Wilson visiting Isaiah Bradley.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I honestly like this episode. Not to sound like. Don't take this the wrong way, but honestly, like this episode with him better than he was in the other one. I mean, I just like more of it because it explored more layers of him rather than what it was before.
I get up. You can go in, Blue Dragon.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm so glad we got this payoff in this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I felt like if it was just left in episode 2, it would have just been wasted opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it actually more fleshed out here was actually very refreshing.
Yeah. I think what's also important about this is that, thematically, Sam has been shaken up in his faith in the symbol and, all the history that comes with it. And I think him going out his way to go to Baltimore, talk to Isaiah, is him trying to reckon with what's sort of the myth, for lack of a better word, of what Captain America is and all that he represents and the reality of it with Isaiah Bradley. And the conversation between, Isaiah Bradley and Sam, both Carl Lumbly as Isaiah and Anthony Mackie as Sam, they're just firing on all cylinders in terms of the emoting.
And Mackey's been killing it this season with performance. My God, he had me from the first episode. And it just keeps getting better, right?
I'm sensing multiple Marvel Emmys this season.
Yeah, it gets all the Marvel Emmys for me. Yes.
Yeah, honestly,
definitely Elizabeth Olsen getting an actress nomination and Mackie for actor.
Yes.
No, these shows, if nothing else, have really given the space to show how good of actors Marvel has gotten for a lot of these characters. For WandaVision, you have Paul Bettany showing he's great at comedy. I mean, he was really good comedy, but being comedic in his Vision performance. Elizabeth Olsen, portraying, layers of grief with Wanda. And now, Sam's conversation and, his emotional turmoil in this episode, alongside, the scene where Sebastian's crying after his Winter Soldier programming is finally done. And just, why Russell's Walker throughout all this. These shows, I think one thing that makes them really stand out is that because of the amount of episodes they have, they really give actors the opportunity to not only choose scenery, but to really perform and really show, the depth of a character that can't necessarily be achieved in a 2 to 2.5 hour runtime because there's so many, commercial considerations about cutting things for, pacing and trying to ramp up the action. And these shows have moments of action, but what's cool about it is that the action is almost in the background for the most part, and it's all the character work. It's all the dialogue. It's all, people, expressing themselves and having inner conflict. And that's just...
Yeah.
What makes...
You're kind of cutting out there.
Yeah, sorry about that, Rohit. I think you might have cut out on the last part.
And your mic is currently muted.
Oh.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just think that these shows have really done a service to their actors and giving them the time to really breathe and really show how to make these characters 3-dimensional human beings.
Absolutely. I mean, I admit, see, I was really hoping we were going to get before I really thought about it when I finally got in this episode, I was hoping we kind of, it's like it's like Chekhov's shield almost with Isaiah Bradley's that, we teed up the whole super soldier thing. And, we have to have a scene between, like, Sam hardly said anything in that introductory scene, so we have to have a scene between these two guys for Sam's arc. We have to. And a part of me is hoping, like, maybe we'll get a flashback. We'll get to see him in action back, when he led this mission, doing some of these stuff from Truth, Red, White, and Black, which essentially, again, the episode title being proof in the pudding, I think. But we got a lot of that in this season. We integrated it so well and naturally into the story. And ultimately,
I would have been happy. I would have been happy with just seeing him in the costume.
I know, that's the thing.
Or if they gave him a costume, that is.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing that occurred to me when I was watching the episodes. I was hoping for that sort of thing, which obviously there's a few differences from the book. I mean, subtle differences, but there are differences. For example, I admit I didn't need. Ultimately, I don't need a flashback. Again, I'll admit I'd be hopeful for a spinoff because it's very compelling stuff we got just in storytelling. Just Carl Lumbly wonderfully acting in the scene, but it's kind of a twofold thing. One, when you really think about it, this would not be a flashback. Would not be in the budget. But the good news is that puts you in Sam's head, just hearing the story and just kind of taking you on the adventure through the mind's eye, through Lumbly's performance.
Honestly, I don't think budget would be more of an issue. I think it'd be more of time.
Well, seriously, there is also a budget thing. I mean, as amazing as the budget's been, they have to, we had a whole episode of them undercover for a reason in part. We can't have them do the wings every episode. It's gonna be really costly.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they're making it work story-wise, though, which is great. And, it's like these are smart choices you make instead of let's blow the budget and have it show. No, let's just be smart about our story. We don't need that. The story's enough. And, I think the other reason is that, even if we just, let's say we had a flashback, okay, logically he can't be in that Captain America suit like he is in the comic because that detracts from the point of Sam's dilemma. Yeah, because he never, as at all points, I would never put on that shield. And again, Tiki's not here with us on the show, but he left a few comments for us. And I think Tiki pointed out the big line of the episode we talked about here. Says the line of this episode and perhaps the show was the government would never make a black man. Basically, he said they would never make a black man Captain America. They will never make a black man Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be. That's a compelling, awesome, God-respecting line.
But what's interesting is that through Sam's perspective, it doesn't necessarily portray him as entirely in the right, though.
Certainly. And again, Isaiah's been through heck and back, and you obviously you sympathize with him. I love the detail that he was in Steve Rogers' shoes, just saving his men who basically they were thinking about bombing that POW camp just to get rid of the evidence. They're more than evidence. They're men, darn it.
Yep.
Yeah, and just. Absolutely, but and you're right, because ultimately it looks like Sam's with that awesome training montage. It seems that Sam's leaning towards I'm gonna take up the shield because one, I need to kind of stop the bad guys, but also I'm gonna make the choice. I'm gonna take the shield by my own measure of things. I'm gonna be optimistic and kind of hope for the system, perhaps.
Yeah, I think in saying that, I think Sam is sort of going to, by the end, be sort of the position that T'Challa was at the end of Black Panther, arc-wise, in the sense that there are these opposing viewpoints, specifically you have on one end of the spectrum you have Walker, who's very about the symbol and about upholding American values, and then the other end you have Carly, who's upholding the plight and well-being of the world at large. And I think Sam, when he becomes Captain America, I think he'll be Captain America, less of the people of just America alone, but of the world. And with wings, he can be a Captain America that just flies around the world and helps out whoever, regardless of nationality. And I think that's where the show, at least in my mind, is going to lead him to. So that way, Harley's viewpoint is acknowledged, but it won't necessarily be validated in terms of the means that she went on. And Sam will be sort of showing a different way, a different path forward. So
Yeah, like that's the thing that line, the whole "never let a black man be Captain America" just kind of signifies that in one line we vocalize what Sam's hesitation has been. Like, why the big, not so much a mystery, but kind of the internal character motivations. Like, why did Sam put the shield back in the Smithsonian? Of course, the deeper reason is that, of course, the whole like just the doubts of all the pressure it's kind of foisted onto him with like the whole like we've never had a black Captain America, and as we saw, the government didn't quite. They don't quite want that either. They're kind of fraying away from that. And they said they took the first opportunity. The shield was out of his hands to give it to their golden boy. He's going to play by the rules versus a guy who has reservations about the GRC. The guy who says maybe this isn't the best course of action. Maybe we should be able to help people and not basically. Again, I think one of the themes of the season about the series has been we can't just ignore the past. We can't ignore what happened. Same thing with WandaVision. We can't just. We're trying to adjust to the new status quo, but we can't pretend like things didn't happen. We can just like force people back into the way things were because that's not progress, which Sam's all about. So let's fix a boat, guys. Let's talk about the boat fixing stuff. Let's go. Boat.
Yeah, we need to get moving though.
Yeah, we're almost, I think, based on the boat of I thought it was a very lethal weapon way of progressing Sam and Bucky's relationship, in the literal sense, given there was a boat being fixed in Lethal Weapon.
Yep, and the song was playing pretty cool, too.
Yeah, I love how the boat's been kind of a parallel to the S.H.I.E.L.D. dilemma here, where, the legacy of Paul and Darlene, it's been about, like, the legacy of Falcon's parents, not the boat itself, or think about it. The big line of the show from the top is that it's about the women and men behind the symbol, than the symbol itself. So all the people that Paul and Darlene helped fix that ship.
Yep. And Bucky and Sarah started hitting it off.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious. Is Bucky hitting on Bucky? We've been seeing Bucky trying to get back in the dating pool, so that'd be hilarious and very Lethal Weapon-esque as well.
And he's like,
it's not Murtaugh's daughter.
And Sam was like, Don't flirt with my sister.
I'll have Carlos cut you up like fish.
And feed you to the fish.
Yep.
I think he was just. Part of me thinks like Sam was like Bucky was just doing it to mess with Sam, but
yeah,
part of me also kind of actually wants it to happen.
I think it's gonna happen. I think it's possible.
I'm not gonna count on it or anything, but I'm just saying part of me wants it to happen.
Sure.
What I love about that whole bow sequence is sort of Sam taking his family's notebook and calling each number of a family friend, whoever, and having the whole community turn out. And I think what's really important about that happening is sort of Sam's.
If you think about it. Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt, but it's kind of what Carly's doing, but, correct.
Well, not only that, but I think it's also having Sam, essentially community rally together to help fix this boat, I think is a strong, I don't want to say counter, but it's sort of a rebuttal to Isaiah's sort of, cynicism and bitterness. And not to say he's not justified, but I think having the community come together, at least in Sam's mind, even if he doesn't have necessarily full faith and trust in the government and the system that, gives him, the power, authority to be Captain America, he does have faith in people, individuals,
yes. Absolutely.
And that's what Captain America stood for. He stood for the people above the government.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's also kind of what Carly was doing for, but actually, not, insanely murderous.
I think what helps Sam is that because he's a trauma counselor at the VA at the beginning of Winter Soldier, all the things that he's gone through, both as a soldier, a black man, adventure, what have you, he has the tools that he had, in his arsenal to deal with that trauma. And then by counseling, not only veterans, but the people specifically like Walker and Carly, he's also trying to offer the same tools, not to much success, but whereas with Bucky, we offer the same tools, Bucky really opens up to Sam that he's in a way that he never did with Dr. Rayner. He admits that he has nightmares.
Bucky was she was a therapist. Sam is a friend.
Yeah, I love. To me, it was such a touching moment as they're tossing the shield to each other, which is really nice to see him give him a few pointers on how to catch the shield. Which obviously it's gonna take some time to master, but he does. He does. There's such a touching moment to me where now that they've kind of gotten past like the after Bucky gives that wonderful apology for Steve and I, we didn't consider the ramifications of giving a black man the shield and just all this responsibility. How could we didn't realize, and he just gives a really heartfelt apology, and this leads to Falcon just giving him this great. Using his VA training to give him this advice of do the work to make amends, and he gives us. You never hear this, and this was like a big feather in the show's cap. This stuff you never hear, where it's like, hey, you don't just go and say you don't just go and say you're sorry because everyone's just going to feel miserable at the end of the day. You want to do something that actually helps these people, and you start with one. Of course, we know who the one's going to be.
Yori.
Yeah.
Yep, it's going to be Yori.
I was like, yeah, but when I first heard that, I mean, first I was like, yeah, he's gonna you got to put in the work and you gotta at least do something to make that guy's day.
But that's just such a great piece of VA advice coming from the guy who would know. I love that so much, and I just think that it was a great olive branch between the two of them that's going to help each other. And of course, we're teeing things up so wonderfully for the finale because of course we're in New York, which is where Bucky lives, and that Nakajima story is going to come to a head next episode. And the whole GRC Patch Act vote's going on, and Carly's going to be kind of jamming the rudders on that one.
Mm-hmm.
What about that heartbreaking scene with the Hoskins family? I thought that might have been one of Wyatt Russell's best scenes, is him having that scene with the family. It's a heartbreaking scene where he knows he's just confronted the fact that you didn't get Carly, you didn't get Carly, you killed just a random schmo like the ex-Captain America fan in that group of flag smashers. You did not get the killer, and I just love that's going to be his motivation for he's going to be gumming up the works when he's going to want to kill Carla, or Sam's going to want to save her, and also so it's not forgotten, Bucky and Zemo got some closure at the Sokovian Memorial, and Zemo sounds like he gave Bucky a thing where I'm curious how this is going to end up. Where it seems like Bucky's not going to try and kill Carly, but Zemo kind of made it very kind of clear, you're probably going to have to. You're probably going to have to kill Carly. Almost in a weird, demented way, kind of a parallel between Steve and Falcon on the bridge talking about whether or not you're going to kill Bucky in the third act of Winter Soldier. So I wonder
not the person you stop is not the person you can save. It's the person you stop.
Exactly.
Like that, yeah.
So I wonder if that might be maybe. Yeah, go on now.
Well, when I saw that scene, it kind of like the way he characterized sort of Bucky's potential role and sort of be doing the things that are hard but necessary, and like Sam is sort of the clean cut like Steve Rogers types. It sort of harkens back to like how Brubaker retooled or recharacterized Bucky in his Captain America run, where Steve Rogers is sort of the icon, the face of American values and rah-rah propaganda, whereas Bucky, who's essentially somewhat of a child soldier, is doing all the wet works and assassinations. And so that's why he, like, when he gets captured the Russians, he's made to be an assassin because he already is like a skilled assassin and wet works guy at such a young age. And so Zemo, like, making Bucky out to be the guy who will do stuff that's not pretty in the shadows to preserve the image and do what's best, then justify the means. Like that, I feel like was hinting at what Bucky's role was in the comics.
Can you imagine the last episode? We hit a moment where Sam succeeds. He stops Walker from killing Carly, and then just like it's like a make or break moment where even though he's been fighting it the whole season, possibly Winter Soldier has to kill Carly to save the day, and he's going to do it on his own merit versus just being just the Winter Soldier. But it's going to be mess for him. Like I wonder how clean cut we're going to go with that series. I'm convinced we're going to be a moment where he's going to have to contemplate killing Carly and whether he's going to do it or not. That's what I'm. Again, may not even happen, but I'm just saying with that Zemo scene, it makes me think we're going to a place where it's going to be, will Bucky kill and revert back to his Winter Soldier ways, but for a good cause? I don't know.
See, I have a theory, at least my speculation is that I think John will try to kill Carly and the Flag Smashers, and either he'll succeed or he almost succeeds, and then he's not stopped by just Sam, but he's stopped by like regular like folks. And it's a callback to the scene in like the Comic Civil War where like Captain America's beating up an Iron Man.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because then because the thing is like I think it would be repeating the beat again from this episode of just Sam and Bucky going against Walker in a fight.
Yeah.
Instead, Walker could, be like, why are you, like, to the people that are stopping them, why are you doing this? And they realize it's like, instead of just ending in a fisticuffs, like either Sam or just by seeing the people that are stopping, like the actual regular everyday folks, like police officers, paramedics, whoever, like stopping John, he'll surrender himself. And that, I think, can help John to show that he's not a full-out villain. He's just the person that fell down a really dark path and is just now horrified with how far he's gone.
Dor, that is an excellent idea, man. I love it.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, so we have the little side note. I think we'll wrap things up. Torres got the Falcon wings, and of course, in the comics, he's poised to take over the mantle. I think I love he swooped in next episode. It might be like a little. I don't know if it's gonna be a PS at the end of the last episode, or maybe he'll swoop in to help save the day. He'll take on Batroc. Who knows?
And obviously, the Wakandans, I think, gave Falcon his new wings.
Yep, and possibly a suit too. Because think about it. I think it's absolutely going to be wings, but could it be wings and the Captain America suit to finally, give him the?
That just reminds me. I saw like this thing online where people were speculating, and someone joked that suitcase had Turkish delight in it.
God. But seriously though, if it was like a kind of a Wakandan vibranium Captain America suit, it would be a great way of compensating for the fact of he's not a super soldier, and we might have to give him an edge. That would be kind of a way of giving Falcon an edge in lieu of like the serum, which obviously he would never take.
See, that just kind of gives me the idea. Like, imagine like someone punching Sam in like any part of his costume, and then how like Black Panther
kinetic energy,
he redirects the energy and just like points his wings towards the person, and the energy just shoots out the wings.
Because remember, his wings could do that. His wings could shoot stuff in the that'd be awesome. Yes, it's great.
And it's like red, white, or blue.
That'd be even better. Because I heard a wonderful. Someone had the most wonderful, elegant theory I've ever heard. I really hope it makes it into the last episode, and then we'll absolutely cap it off. Here's that. I heard that maybe the happy ending we get in the next episode, like by the end of things, is that what if in the Captain America Museum, Mark Bernard had this theory, by the way, from Batman on Batman. I love him. Mark Bernard, and he's pitched like, what if the Bradley stuff comes into the fray and it's added to the Smithsonian exhibit of the Captain America part of the museum.
I would like to see that.
And he gets to walk in there and he gets to like kind of see it there. It's like I think that'd be beautiful. Like him and his grandson, of course, maybe tee up a bit of the Patriot stuff. Who knows? But yeah, that'd be.
I feel like I think I can see that happening not in this show because I feel like that would be saved for to bring Isaiah and or Eli to like a movie trilogy with Sam Cap. So that way, audience members that don't have Disney Plus will get introduced to like Isaiah, and then having the museum. I don't know if Isaiah Bradley would have an exhibit in the Captain America. I was thinking more like how there's the African American Museum of History and all that.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea, man. All right, so again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, I want to thank Rohit for joining us. Very insightful. We loved having you on, buddy.
Yep.
I loved being on this podcast. It's great to discuss this episode. So I'll be open to be for any future episodes or just anytime you want me to chat up. I'm down.
One of the first calls, buddy. I'll assure you that right now. You've dazzled us all here tonight. So. All right, that'll do it for us this week as we holster our remotes till the next installment. Calls for the draw, mano y mano, just Plus and Us. Uncle Sam for the win.
Yeah.
Toss that shield and catch it.